Hello and welcome to a new video here on my channel. Today I'm showing to you part 8 of the story MHA and the Mystery of Quirks. I hope you really like it, and if you like it, leave a like and comment down below, and then let's start right with the story and let's go.
Whatever Lady Shigaraki says or does, Momo, you must stay polite. She's not someone to underestimate. She's from the Shigaraki family and as dangerous as a nuclear weapon. If what we know about her is true, stay friendly. The thought echoed through Momo's head just as a blond boy vaulted over the wall. His eyes flashed reddish in the sunlight while the staff stepped between the intruder and Izuka. Hitomi was the first to move. She went to Izuka and knelt beside her. Even when Momo tried to move, her legs wouldn't budge an inch. It felt like none of this was real, like a dream, as Izuka began to mutter and rock back and forth, curled up on the ground. Katsuki Bakugo, you are trespassing on private property. We are authorized to use force to remove you from this property, the first man said as he advanced toward Katsuki Bakugo. Hey, can you please make a note that in addition to the other crimes I want documented, Katsuki Bakugo also broke into my property? Inko said calmly, her gaze fixed on Katsuki. Yes, as you wish, Lady Shigaraki. I will take care of it, and I will sue Aldera Junior High as you requested. How far would you like us to proceed with legal measures? How strict should we be? Asked a woman in a suit and tie whom Momo had not noticed before. Where this obviously prepared lawyer had come from, and how she was so ready for the situation, puzzled Momo. I want Aldera Junior High sued until they regret ignoring bullying. If I ever hear again that they let someone be bullied at school and the teachers do nothing, which is their job, I will legally flatten that school. As for Katsuki Bakugo, once my daughter has recovered she can decide what she wants. For now I want a court order stating that the walking stick of dynamite with aggression problems may not touch my daughter and must stay away from her, except when absolutely necessary for school or official reasons. Even then, there must be enormous consequences if he hurts her, Inko said, her voice carrying across the garden as clearly as his explosions. Hey you extras, get out of my way, I have a bone to pick with this nerd. Katsuki Bakugo shouted, small explosions crackling around his hands. Maybe we can interpret what he's doing now as a direct attack or attempted murder. The important thing is that we collect enough material to keep him away from my daughter. What he's doing could be seen as illegal use of his quirk and attempted bodily harm, if not attempted murder, Inko said calmly, knowing full well that even if he got through, he couldn't actually do serious damage. Yes, ma'am, as you wish, the lawyer said, writing something on her clipboard without hesitation. It was clear to Momo that this was the kind of lawyer who wasn't after the whole truth so much as the pile of money someone like Lady Shigaraki could throw at an army of attorneys. She's not relying on physical force here, this is pure societal power. Lady Shigaraki uses influence to get what she wants without violence, Momo thought. If you don't let me through. Katsuki started, but Inko cut him off. I never thought you could fall this low. I still remember clearly how you used to be her best friend, and look what you've done now. My daughter is traumatized by you and trembles at the thought you might break her again or burn her. So I beg you, try to force your way through, seal your fate as a villain. Try violence and see where that leads you. Rage, act out as your temper demands. Make things as hard for you and your family as they're going to get, Inko said, stalking toward him calmly. Aunt Inko, you're back. Katsuki muttered. Yes I am, and it's time to protect my daughter, Inko replied. I didn't. That wasn't me, it was the others. I always made sure they didn't go too far, Katsuki Bakugo snapped, still furious at being told he's wrong. I don't care what you say, boom boom boy. I believe my daughter. Try bringing her to the hospital again. This time it will be you. I have a lot saved up for you. I'm looking forward to it, Inko said as she cracked her knuckles and readied herself for a fight. That can pass as somewhat excessive self-defense, the lawyer said, clearly impressed and unconcerned with objectivity. What is this? I just want to talk to the nerd, Katsuki Bakugo says, anger in his voice as he steps toward Izuka. You will not, Katsuki Bakugo. You've done enough, Inko says, and without hesitation she parts the human wall and strides straight at her daughter's bully, her bodyguards and protection staff flowing back into formation like water. There's nothing you can say that will get you through here, Inko says, her imposing figure looming over the living bomb like an insurmountable mountain. Before he fully understands why, Katsuki feels it down to his bones. Aunt Inko is not joking. The restraint she once showed has been replaced by an overwhelming, suffocating force. A thought flashes through Katsuki's head about what kind of quirk Inko really has. There is no way through. No matter how many times trying to smash his head through a wall has worked before, Katsuki Bakugo isn't stupid enough to keep doing it when it's useless. Damn dumb nerd. She shouldn't act like that, Katsuki blurts out before his anger even fully catches up with his words, as often happens. What do you mean by that? Inko asks, taking another step forward like a personified natural disaster. Katsuki is forced to take a step back. What kind of power is that? Why do I feel like even if I give everything I've got, I couldn't bend a single hair on her body? Katsuki thinks as the tall, dark green-haired woman towers over him like a mountain. That nerd burned the dress. Katsuki says uncertainly, as if the words themselves are hard to form. What does that mean exactly, and why do you think you have the right to frighten my daughter like that? You will leave this property now, or I will make sure you leave whether you want or not. And don't think you'll walk away unpunished. I will find out what you did to make my daughter so terrified of you, Inko says, pressing him back further with her mere presence. The scene echoes what happened years ago when Inko once drove a villain back just by looking him in the eye and walking toward him, but this is the mirror image. Now it's someone who wants to be a hero standing there. I didn't do anything. I only protected her from becoming a hero. That dream could kill her, Katsuki says. Silence falls as Hitomi's surprised cry comes from behind the human wall of staff. Footsteps approach. You did nothing but beat me up and send me to the hospital. You did nothing but trample my dreams with your feet. Because of you. Izuka says, gathering courage and rage. I'm tired of being afraid of you. I'm tired of being your punching bag, Izuka says, her legs trembling. She can barely stand from fear. I will not be afraid of you, you villain. The dress doesn't matter anymore. You can shove that promise where the sun don't shine. I'd rather die than marry you. You're a monster who thinks he can pass as a hero, Izuka says, and everything goes still. Ah, so that's why the dress mattered. The green dress, the first gift Katsuki gave you when you were 5, Inko murmurs, her eyes flaring that dangerous red. Kurogiri, if I lose control, take me to the mountains. Stop me from killing this little boy. Protect my daughter. That is your highest priority, Inko orders as the air seems to drop a few degrees. Yes, Miss Shigaraki. I will protect the young lady primarily, as you wish, Kurogiri replies, a soft smile spreading across his face. What is this? You promised not to reveal anyone until it came to this, I thought. Katsuki stammers. What you thought and wanted no longer matters. What we had is dead since the moment you thought it was a great idea to use me like a punching bag. I almost took a piece of advice and checked whether I'd get a better quirk in the next life, Izuka says, and the air suddenly grows heavy to breathe, not only for Katsuki but for everyone nearby. You did something. My daughter almost killed herself because of you, a voice says so cold it could freeze the 7 seas. The sky seems to darken as murderous intent washes out from Inko in waves, accompanied by blood-red flames that appear from nowhere. A mother's wrath makes the ground tremble as control over hundreds of quirks flickers in pure rage. Bodies hitting the ground bring Inko back to the present, but small branch-like shapes begin to form from her back. Sparks barely visible and true flames briefly flare and die as Inko pulls herself back under control. Leave, Katsuki Bakugo, or I will tear the heart out of you that you apparently can't use, Inko says, concerned that someone might have seen this. No matter what, I'll just have to put Plan B into action, thinks Inko as she watches Katsuki Bakugo visibly wetting himself from fear or the influence of one of the thousands of quirks. Kurogiri, tell the others. Plan B must be set in motion, Inko says, as the risk rises that the use of all for one might come to light. Be sure. This is risky, Kurogiri replies. Yes, I am sure. And we must prepare it, not use it yet, Inko answers confidently. Because, at heart, Plan B is just one big middle finger to the government and the world. Pure audacity. Chapter. False justice. Even though Izuka isn't quite sure what her mother means, she's done with the past. The dream of becoming a hero has become meaningless. The justice the heroes claim to uphold, the pillars of an order that has long since rotted away. Why did I have to fall so far before I could see how rotten this world and its hero society really are? Why did I have to learn that my mother, all for one, is the worst criminal and villain before I could see that heroes create their own villains? Like light producing shadows, when I think about it, the hero-villain system looks almost like an endless loop. Because villains exist, heroes appear, yet heroes make villains, Izuka thinks, and it's not surprising to her that there are so many villains when people like Katsuki Bakugo can become heroes. Everyone who meets Katsuki sees something impressive in him, and his ego inflates like a balloon. I want to talk to Deku, Katsuki Bakugo starts, unable to find the right words. Not a chance. My daughter is not Deku, she is Izuka Midoriya, or, if she wants, Izuka Shigaraki. She is not Deku, she is so much more than you could ever understand. Leave now or I will really rip your heart out, Inko threatens, while the lawyer in the background pretends the floor is very interesting. Katsuki Bakugo doesn't need much convincing to see that no one here would stop Inko from doing exactly that. The lawyer who acts like she didn't hear anything, the security staff Inko pays, all of them make the situation clear. You can't. Katsuki stammers as he takes a step back from the woman who used to be full of love and kindness, but who now seems like a completely different person. Yes, I can. I could kill the president on stage and no one could stop me. I could do so much and nobody would do anything about it. So if you don't want your life to end quickly, then get out, Inko says as she watches the young Katsuki Bakugo turn and run. He is not the only person who behaves as if he's better than everyone else simply because his power looks cool. There are so many people and heroes who think they have the right to exploit others because they have more power, more rights, or more wealth. It was the same 10 years ago when All Might was first building his fame. It's a beautiful, peaceful day when Sophia Nova, daughter of Martina and Magnus Nova, discovers her quirk. It combines aspects of both her parents' abilities, and her parents flinch with worry. When they watch the 5-year-old Sophia reshape and destroy her toys and form new things from the debris, it becomes clear that this power is more feared than simple creation or destruction. Oh my god. She has both of our quirks. That's bad, Martina Nova exclaims as she looks at her daughter. No, it's worse. Her creations don't disappear like yours do. She forms matter itself, like it's clay in her hands. That's a power we must get under control. Otherwise it won't just be the relics of my old life coming after her. The whole damned world will. Heroes and villains alike would want someone like her under their control, Magnus says, uneasily realizing how much more feared she will be than anyone back then. You're exaggerating, hopefully, Martina says, panic barely kept under control. No, if she can do what I think she can, we have to get away from here and train her. We cannot risk her coming into contact with anyone else, Magnus says, his voice cold and worried. But she's only a child, she still has friends in kindergarten. We can't just disappear without leaving some explanation. Martina says uncertainly to her husband as she watches their daughter play in the nursery. No, it's not overdramatic. We'll come up with an explanation. You pack the things, I'll explain it to her, Magnus replies, taking an involuntary step toward the open door, halfway to his daughter. It takes a moment, but then Martina understands that her husband only wants the best for her and their family. Every worried word he speaks isn't alarmist, it has a solid reason and the weight of experience behind it. As a former #1 villain in the US, it's no coincidence that his destructive power ranks on the same level as a nuclear weapon. It's not only the sheer destructive force of his disintegration-type quirk, but also his intelligence and the choice he made, not to continue living a villain's life but to live for his family and their daughter. That choice moves Martina, and she packs the most important things, clothes and a little provision. It also shows how risky it is to love one of the planet's most dangerous people. She has prepared for it, trained in fighting techniques and in quick, effective escape maneuvers. 15 minutes later, when Martina comes back down the stairs with packed suitcases, Sophia's confusion is visible in her eyes, but she goes along without major protest, which fits her quiet, calm nature. I'm really sorry, sweetie, but your quirk is just too risky. I'm sorry if this seems abrupt, but mommy and daddy have to take you somewhere else until you get it under control. It's simply too dangerous for us to stay close to the city, Magnus says as they get into the car and drive off. Does this have anything to do with you being Blackstar, Daddy? Sophia asks, surprised, and her parents' faces show everything. Don't worry, Daddy, I didn't tell anyone. I only realized yesterday that your quirk is almost identical to disintegration, Black Star's quirk. The rest was just a cute story about how Mommy and Daddy met, then love, and then the stork brought me, Sophia says with those bewilderingly bright but childish eyes, the eyes of a child who doesn't understand why her parents keep secrets, and yet accepts it. In a world with quirks, a 5-year-old with such an intelligent and creative mind is less unbelievable. Quirks influence the mind and the mind influences the quirk in a feedback loop, so a quirk that manipulates the fundamental building blocks of matter can accelerate mental development. It's not surprising that a child who can shape matter itself would show extraordinary cognitive traits. Look, Daddy, what I made, Sophia says, eyes glittering as she holds up something the size of her fist that looks like a diamond. That could help you and Mommy if you need money. Diamonds are valuable, Sophia says proudly, holding up a device showing a children's show about gifted kids who learn complex concepts early, because their quirks let them understand them. The little show is aimed exactly at children like Sophia, kids who learn better through play and whose quirks enable them to grasp complicated topics sooner. Then the screech of tires and an angry horn make Sophia realize this might not have been the best moment to show her parents a fist-sized diamond. Sorry, Mommy, Daddy. I didn't mean to scare you. It just looked so tempting, all the little particles in the air, how they seem to want to become another shape. I thought CO is bad and I could turn it into diamond. Want coal instead? It's pretty similar, Mommy, Daddy, Sophia says as an image of a diamond's tightly packed crystal lattice freezes on the phone's screen. Please don't use your quirk again until we're out of the city, Magnus says while driving under the speed limit through their hometown. And so, on an apparently ordinary summer day, one of the most powerful and dangerous quirks on the planet makes itself known, a quirk that allows a 5-year-old to play with the basic building blocks of reality like other children play with Lego. When the child's intense eyes seem to stare into nothing, she isn't focused on her parents, the cars, or the road. She's watching the smallest particles no one should ever see with the naked eye. Electrons, neutrons, protons that make up the air, the car, and the people around her. Time passes as the Nova family, far from civilization, trains their youngest's ability. It is truly terrifying, reforming matter almost at will, destroying and reshaping it. Reshaping existing matter proves easier than creating entirely new matter, but the more the training progresses, the clearer the worst fears become. There seems to be almost no substance this quirk cannot influence. A power of this level is far more frightening than mere disintegration or isolated creation. In the early days Sophia Nova begins to understand the full scope and consequences of her ability, and her parents begin to talk about secondary quirk effects that let her comprehend complex phenomena and concepts. When they try to return to normal life, nothing is the same. The Japanese hero All Might appears on TV and announces he will go after the villain Black Star if the criminal ever shows his face. Where All Might's friendly, reassuring smile once made people feel everything would be okay, that moment now flips entirely. A month later, everything is turned upside down. A fight between two individuals reduces almost the whole city to rubble within minutes. It happens so fast, and so many lives are lost in a battle that should never have occurred. I hope it won't go the way I fear, my love, Black Star says with his last breath as his eyes roll back and his life leaves him. But when a news helicopter arrives and a camera points at the chaos, All Might can't shake the feeling that staying longer will be a terrible mistake. Why do I have the feeling I'll regret staying here? Why do I feel like I just made a mistake? I did my job as a hero and saved many lives. But why was Black Star carrying children's toys? That doesn't fit a villain of his caliber, Toshinori Yagi thinks as he drops to his knees and, in his All Might persona, launches himself up with all his strength. The ground shakes and dust billows as All Might reflects on how close it was while he raced through the air at twice the speed of sound. The idea of what might have happened if Black Star's quirk had connected sends a chill down his spine. That black and white energy cut through everything, even things large, muscular, and human. This ability to destroy matter so completely that nothing remains, my resilience and strength may not bridge that gap. Fortunately he reacted like a normal person. If he could have moved like me, it wouldn't matter how strong I am. He could fundamentally annihilate matter, and I'm not sure my durability could slow that down at all, All Might thinks as he moves out of the helicopter's range. But as the blurred images spread across TV channels nationwide, a seed of hate and fury takes root in a child's heart. Chapter: A Child's Pain. It's been a week since the story about the heroes reached the Nova family, the story that Magnus Nova died in a car accident. It's one of the worst lies the mother and daughter have ever been told. Yet as eyes from the darkness watch the Novas, there's no obvious sign that they're plotting revenge or that they had anything to do with the villainous business of the former supervillain Blackstar. To outsiders everything looks ordinary. The daughter goes to school and is bullied and discriminated against by classmates because her quirk seems made only for destruction, as if that alone would turn her into a villain. As time goes on and the bullying gets worse with age, Sophia Nova feels the irony. They cannot break this endless loop. Those who call themselves heroes, exalted above everyone else, full of glory and supposed righteousness, are portrayed as beings who could never be wrong. Years pass and the bullying intensifies. 5 years after Blackstar's death, the Nova household holds a quiet birthday, no friends, and no eyes watching from the dark anymore. "Mom, we're safe now. The monitoring devices are gone. I checked again this morning," Sophia Nova says, her voice heavy and deliberate. "Thank you for doing that. And they haven't followed you on the way to school, have they?" Martina Nova asks, the mood in the room feeling anything but celebratory. "No, Mother, they haven't been following me. The heroes and the police seem to have run out of patience. They stopped surveillance a month ago. I guess they no longer consider it necessary to watch us around the clock," Sophia says, her black hair glinting in the light of a single candle on the cake. "I have a birthday present for you in that case. We will begin a new life," Martina says, her hair a bit unkempt and makeup smudged on her face. Even though suspicion lingers, a part of Sophia neither wants to confirm it nor speak it aloud. "You thought about my offer. Or you know I could solve the problem in a matter of seconds," Sophia brings up the subject she's been stewing over in the last few days whenever she felt unobserved. "No, not yet. We won't do that for now, not until we've left. But are you ready for our move and the surprise for the eyes in the dark?" Martina asks, bitter, frustrated, and just as angry as ever, her long-harbored wrath showing through. There's no verbal reply. Sophia merely nods and points to a notebook where she's written down chemical formulas and the composition of the object she wants to make. "Then make a wish. It is, after all, your birthday," Martina says, feeling as if her daughter's empty, dark eyes are burning a hole into her chest. "I wish that All Might pays for this. I wish that my father's murderer pays for what he took from me," Sophia thinks, furious at the man who took their peaceful life simply because Blackstar had been a supervillain, someone who had committed crimes and had the capability to destroy a city, even if he hadn't done it. The fact that his wife and child lived in the same city was enough. Next morning the Nova house is empty. 6 hours after the family's disappearance is noticed, 2 licensed heroes and a group of police enter the apartment and at first find nothing unusual. It looks like no one broke in. Then, as if some cruel joke were played on them, they find an All Might poster in one of the rooms, scratched and pierced by several nails and even a knife embedded halfway into the wall. And then, as if that weren't enough, there's a ticking noise coming from something that isn't an alarm clock. "Do you hear that ticking? What is that?" one of the officers asks, noticing a cable running down the door towards something hidden beneath a chair in the dark. Another cable goes from tiny, barely noticeable points near the window to the same dark block beneath the table. "Group 1, we have an unidentified, ticking black object. Do you copy?" a voice reports, and the realization hits them like a lightning strike. But it's already too late. The entire building detonates in a blinding flash of fire and heat, everything within several meters instantaneously engulfed and pulverized. The ground trembles, surrounding buildings suffer heavy damage, and several civilians are injured. Even after the U.S. Hero Association sends reinforcements and investigators comb the site, there's nothing useful left, no footage, no traces to indicate where the Nova family went. Within a week the investigation is shelved for lack of evidence. Not a single surveillance camera or patrolling hero present the night the family vanished left any trace, as if the world had simply swallowed them. When the news reaches All Might some indeterminate time later, he can't shake a deep feeling that something is off. It's not only a feeling in his bones, it's an itch at the back of his mind that nothing can scratch. Seconds stretch into minutes as All Might's gaze fixes on the tiny, almost laughably small photo on his phone, the picture one of the officers managed to take before the building was blown to Kingdom Come. It's a photo of one of the many All Might posters sold commercially, but the poster's face is scratched, and where a heart might be, the poster has a knife driven several centimeters into the wall. It doesn't take All Might long to realize that whatever happened, it went horribly wrong. As his eyes move across the attached report, surprise and dread widen them as the puzzle pieces begin to click. So Blackstar actually had a family. Why didn't anybody tell me? That explains the toys he had. I knew something didn't add up, All Might thinks, as a dark, heavy weight spreads through his heart. It may be idealistic, even reckless, to imagine a world where everyone can smile, but seeing a child who should believe in the hero system turn against it because the system failed to protect her is painful for All Might, regardless of his power or invulnerability. Why wasn't I told earlier? He asks himself as his interest in the case flares anew. Even after many calls and minutes of focus, the fact remains that the Blackstar family vanished without a trace. With the daughter's quirk bearing strong similarities to her father's, it reads like the birth of another villain, a child whose parents were labeled villains by the system and were thus pushed toward villainy themselves. This is a sign that the Nova family may have started down the villain path. Humel's thoughts register as images of the blast and the dead flicker through his mind. But amid the storm of impressions an unexpected question surfaces, and All Might pauses. How would he have acted if he were the person who had been under near constant surveillance for 4 years and then had the person he loved most killed by a hero? How would he have reacted? The thought arrives unbidden from nowhere. But even as All Might, the symbol of peace in Japan, triumphs over the greatest of villains in a battle that should have gone down in history, and yet somehow didn't, he gets the feeling that something is wrong. Even after the legendary fight between two titans, All Might and Lady Shigaraki, the world knows her as All for One, reaches its end. The echo of their clash ripples around the globe as the criminal empire collapses, one of the few reminders left of a time before all this strange chaos. Now, at an indeterminate time later in the present, a routine passenger plane touches down at Musudafu Airport. Among the tourists disembarking is a black-haired woman whose eyes are hidden behind sunglasses. To everyone else she looks like any other traveler. The ID tucked in her luggage, like most of the identification papers she carries, is fake enough to pass casual inspection. Iris White smiles and treats the airline staff politely, but behind that mask of friendliness she hides several secrets that have kept her alive for years. As Iris White pulls her suitcase through Musudafu, the midday air feels crisp and, for a moment, she regrets not wearing something warmer. When her thoughts drift from the chill to the forged documents she uses like a second face, she can't help but reflect on how meaningless names can feel. In normal circumstances I'd assume names are for identification and individuality. But if you've been on the run for a while, names somehow lose some of their meaning, she thinks. Walking the city streets, she can't shake the sense of being watched, even though rationally it makes almost no sense, she shouldn't still be followed. And trembles on the suitcase at the memory of what happened in the United States. Fighting back the tears is harder than usual, and she tries not to think about that warehouse where a certain person lay motionless in a puddle of their own blood. Damn it, I bit my lip again, she murmurs under her breath, barely keeping the rage that burns from bone to vein under control. But it's not only anger, there's grief, frustration, and despair at the blinding, untouchable brilliance of Japan's #1 hero. Where everyone else sees All Might's smile as hope and reassurance, to her it's the most mocking, malicious grin imaginable, the kind of smile that radiates, everything's fine, in a society that tramples and ignores the weak. How can I help you, miss? Asks a friendly man in a suit behind the reception desk of a 5-star hotel. Sorry, I was just lost in thought. I'd like a single room for the next week, Iris answers, forcing a controlled, polite smile that fools the man behind the desk. She pays and is shown to her room. For the first time since she arrived, she allows herself a little space to breathe and try to relax. Iris White sank onto the hotel sheets like a body finally admitting defeat. The flight had folded her small reserves of patience and vigilance into thin creases, exhaustion pressed at her limbs, an almost welcome weight after the brittle alertness of the last days. For a few slow breaths she let herself be merely a person in a bed, somewhere that felt briefly safe. The respite did not last. Her thoughts crawled as soon as she closed her eyes. Training, discipline, a new life that might, if she was careful, hide the anger that lived beneath her skin. The idea of revenge glowed like an ember she kept tamped down, she had not come here for blood yet, though every step she would take in Musudafu would be measured against that dark possibility. She rose and moved to the window. Thin daylight cut the room into gray plains. The city lay beyond, a stitched quilt of motion and sound. People scurried. Horns argued with each other. And in the middle distance a familiar absurdity lumbered through the street. Mountain Lady, all exaggerated strength and posed spectacle, pushing through the crowd like a walking billboard of pomp. Iris watched the display with a half-smile that had no warmth. Just as stupid as the rest of them, she murmured, equal parts contempt and weary humor in the words. The theater of the city repeated itself below her, predictable, banal, and therefore deadly in its consistency. A thief had chosen an abandoned warehouse for a robbery, the sort of theater piece crime that invited exactly the response it received. Blunt force, loud lights, a flurry of heroics and then nothing learned. Every week the same script, different faces. She pressed her palm to the cool glass and felt the city's pulse through it. The pattern was clear. Spectacle mattered more than strategy. Strength was showcased and cheered, wisdom was rarely invited. Heroes ran in fast and loud, criminals behaved as if the simplest logic, study, patience, camouflage, were beneath them. That stupidity, she decided, was a resource. Where everyone else saw chaos, she saw opportunity. Her mouth tightened. She had come here to learn how to make a life that would not be dependently dramatic. Discipline mattered more than flair. She needed to find teachers of the mundane arts, boxing to harden the body and center the reflexes, grappling to control momentum, techniques to redirect force without waiting for a quirk to bail her out. She wanted the kind of training that made showmanship unnecessary. Dressed with calm efficiency, she pulled on a coat that felt like armor, checked her false papers, and locked the door. The hotel's polished anonymity suited her for only so long. The street was honest in its noise. Outside, Musudafu smelled of oil and frying skewers, of metal and sea. She moved toward the quarter she had studied from reports and old clippings, a mixed block of shops, ramen stands, pawnshops, and small hero agencies. Gunhead's name had come up often in dossiers, blunt, practical, reliable in close work, the sort of teacher who would give her usable tools, not theatrical flourishes. She pictured the man's quirk in her head, bone projectiles fired with the precision of bullets, a grotesque but effective weapon. It was the kind of directness she respected. Precision. Utility. No wasted motion. The neighborhood tightened around her. Delivery trucks double parked, posters peeling from poles, children weaving through traffic like they belonged to the disorder. She slowed on a side street, letting the plan settle into her chest. She wanted a craft that minimized luck and maximized control. She wanted research and reconnaissance to be her first strike. Know an opponent's quirk, know their routines, and half the fight was already decided. At the corner she paused and let the city breathe around her. The absurd choreography below, heroes posing, citizens applauding, criminals performing to an audience, reinforced the one certainty she had arrived to test. In a world addicted to spectacle, the quiet path of preparation was invisible. It was precisely why it would work. She stepped off the curb and walked on, feeling the city's noise shape itself into a clean, private resolve. The city's noise seemed to recede slowly, slipping into the background, while Iris rummaged through her pockets searching for something she knew she'd had. Apart from pepper spray and a loaded handgun, there wasn't much left in the backpack. Everything had become a messy tangle. Where is this agency? Gunhead Hero Agency. Where the hell is it? What a stupid name. Gunhead, weapon head, basically, Iris thought as she finally pulled the map from her bag and tried to make sense of it. Even though she was in the right neighborhood, the streets themselves were chaos. Part of her couldn't help wondering how many roads had to be blocked because a woman who can grow huge is too dumb to wait until the fight to get big. It would make more sense for her to drop in from a helicopter, she mused. How do her clothes even hold up? Shouldn't she be naked? I mean, what material stretches that much without tearing? Not that I'd want her naked all the time. That'd be weird, but it'd be logical. Or maybe her power increases the mass of her clothes, which begs the question why that can't be used differently. Iris let herself think, a tiny, distracting aside, until 5th Street was blocked and patience turned into irritation. Why does it always have to be such bullshit? If I don't get there on time they'll close it off, right? Iris muttered, glaring down the street where one of the many idiots had probably just detonated some device. "Can I help you, miss?" a male voice asked. Before Iris could fully process it, she'd thrown the man to the ground and planted one hand on the knife hidden in her shoe. "Oh, sorry. Don't sneak up on someone like that," Iris said, feeling a small stab in her chest as panic and the effort to control it tightened her throat. "Man, you've got a real kick to you, miss," the young man said, not angry so much as surprised and a little annoyed. "Yeah, sorry, bad habits," Iris answered, embarrassed, rubbing the back of her head. When the sleeve of her long jacket fell back and revealed an ugly scar, the man didn't flinch. If anything, he looked intrigued and relaxed. He wore black gloves and long trousers that left hardly any skin exposed except his face. "No problem, I've been thrown on the ground more times than you can count. Not a big deal, just unexpected," the man said casually. "If you want, I could help you. I've got a motorbike if you're in a rush. Or I can point the way, I know this area well," he offered. "Okay, if everything's fine then that's good. I feel like I should know you. Are you a hero or a sidekick around here?" Iris asked, slipping into a friendly mask to get what she wanted. As they talked, Iris noticed something shift in his eyes. She couldn't name it, but he grew slightly more guarded. "Yes, I'm a sidekick for the pro hero Gunhead," he said. "What's behind your eyes? You're good at being friendly, but I get the feeling there's more. People don't react that harshly just from bad experiences," he thought as his gaze flicked to the knife tucked in her shoe. "I'm actually on my way to him. Gunhead is at his agency now. I want to take some voluntary martial arts lessons he offers. I'm very interested in learning to fight," Iris said. "You could already. You're pretty good, as we just saw," he replied. "No, I'm not good enough," Iris said, blunt and unfriendly. I'd still say you're very capable. So why do you want lessons?" he asked, more cautious now. "I don't want to die, so will you help me or not?" Iris asked, her finger on the map, unwilling to apologize for something she didn't regret. Time passed, seconds stretched as the silence between them grew heavy. Okay, I can help, but nobody's been this blunt with me before. You really don't want to die, it's not like it's terribly likely," he said. "I don't know if you just don't see it or don't want to think. But a huge woman just walked through the city a few minutes ago and there are 5 mangled cars. People could be in them. I could die or be badly hurt any second if one of those heroes or villains does something stupid. I want to live," Iris said in a tone that allowed no contradiction, her eyes glued to the map. "That's a pretty radical view," he replied. "Radical? I'd call it realistic. People had to die today again. People die every week in this city. What's radical about wanting to avoid that?" Iris's pragmatic tone made him picture her personality as an ice cube. "Okay, if you can't find the way, follow me, we can talk while we walk. I need to pick something up from the agency anyway, and don't worry, the lessons haven't started yet," he said, ignoring what she'd just said. As she followed him, Iris couldn't help wondering what his quirk was. He didn't seem powerful, at least not in an obvious way.
And that's it for today. I hope you really liked it. This was part 8 of the story MHA and the Mystery of Quirks. If you want to see more of the story, leave a like and a comment down below. On the left side of the screen you can see now the newest video I uploaded. On the right side of the screen you can see the playlist. And until next time, take care and goodbye.